For the benefit of those that was not here this afternoon, let me just share just a little bit of my testimony. We're going to go right to the word of the Lord because the Lord's going to heal somebody tonight. The Lord told me when I was in the hospital, he said, you know, these hands, they only spread 2 times. Once when I go to the organ, and once when I begin to pray for folks. That's the only 2 times they'll spread. And other times I can't bend down and pick up a quarter. I told you the other day, I guess folks that stand behind me at the Coke machine, they really feel like they're blessed because they get all the change. Because I cannot get the change. But, you know, after all I've been through, all I want to be is the vessel that the Lord wants to use. I was sharing with Pastor Hidden in the office. I could very easily hold my head up and be big-headed and act like I'm something. But I feel so honored to be standing in the pulpit of a man such as Pastor Richard Hinton. You know, some churches you go to, they hear good preaching and it startles them. Their eyes are diluted in apprehension because they never heard such good preaching, but y'all get it all the time. And I said today, whatever you do, hold your pastor up before the Lord because his ministry is reaching thousands. When I was in the hospital, and for you that don't know this, when I was in the hospital, I had a tape when Pastor Hinton came to California back in '78. And, you know, because I could not work the tape recorder, the nurses had to flip the tape over, and, you know, nurses get real mad at you, you know, and they act like they don't want to work and stuff like that. I ain't talking about none of the nurses here. But, you know, now when you go to the hospital and you stay just a few days, the nurses are very congenial. And they want to help you. But when you go stay over a week, when they get to know you and, you know, and they know your complaint and they'll, what do you want now, you know? You know, they're getting paid to do it, but what do you want, you know? And the nurses, they didn't want to flip the tapes for me, so I just had the one tape, and the nurse, she put it on, and I only could stay woke about an hour and a half because they had me on 25 milligrams of morphine every 20 minutes. And for 2.5 years, this was my medicine. That's all they were giving because when I would look down and I could see my veins and see the flesh. And then they put me in this betadine solution, which was based with Clorox, and all these open cuts, they had to be cleaned, and they set me on a gurney and dropped me down into the solution. And when that solution would begin to hit the cuts, it would burn, it would tingle, and my whole body would quiver. I was in so much pain until I just, you know, when you get so much pain, you don't feel the pain. My whole body just would get numb. And so, you know, for the 2.5 years on the morphine, you know, I could not stay woke over but a few minutes. And every time they put that tape on, they play it, and I'd always hear Dr. Hinton when he was preaching, he said, I can do all things through Christ that strengthened me. And that stuck with me. And when my wife of 13 years came to the hospital and said, here's divorce papers, I don't want you no more. You're not a man, you can't walk, you can't talk, you can't give me the Mercedes, the llama minks, the diamond rings. I don't want you no more, you'll never be nothing. And that what Pastor Hinton, I kept hearing what Pastor Hinton was saying on that tape. I can do all things through Christ that strengthened me. And you know, from that point on, I start beginning to believe and speak my healing in existence. The doctors came in telling me, well, you're not going to walk no more. I said, yes, I am going to walk too. The doctor said, you're not going to be able to see no more. I said, yes, I am going to be able to see. And do you know when they put these eyes in my head, according to the doctor said that they felt so confident in their mind that I would not be able to see again. they were just putting them in there for cosmetic purposes, that they said they didn't hook up everything. They just slapped them in there. And when they took the stitches off, they said, well, all we're trying to do is make you look like a man, because the nurses would come in the hospital and they had to have special nurses to work on me, because, you know, now when you see a man with no face, no skin, no eyes, did not look like a man, the regular nurses couldn't handle it. They come in throwing up and oh my God, some of them would start crying and scream. So they had a special staff of nurses just to work with me. And you see, if any of you ever been in a burn center, a burn unit is one of the most painful units just to walk through, because you see little children burnt from head to toe. You see grown men that the faces have been burnt and sunken in on one side. And so they had to have a special nurses that work with me. And the nurses decided that I wasn't going to look like nothing. So they said what they're going to do is they're just going to put something in my head to make me look like a man. But when they put those eyes in and cut the stitches, I felt something warm go over my eyes. Woo! Hallelujah! And you know, as I could feel them taking the stitches, you can see the surgical scars, how they took the stitches around from around the eye. And then they have to stitch the lids together. And as they cut the stitches away from the lids, each stitch they cut, I see a flash. And every stitch, it was a different flash and a different flash. And pretty soon, when they cut all the stitches, the doctor said, well, that's how we're going to leave. And I said, doctor, you know, I didn't know you were so ugly. God had touched my eyes and gave me 20/20 vision, and the eyes weren't even all the way hooked up, but God had his own operation. Lord have mercy, I got to preach here tonight, but y'all forgive me, I'm in Chicago and I'm glad about it. I'd like a reader to get me St. John, the 20th chapter, and the 20th verse. We're not going to be before you long tonight because the Lord has laid it on my heart to pray for somebody. You that are looking at me, you that are in radio land, I wish you were here, because this is the modern day miracle. Many times you hear testimonies and you get a mental conception but never a visual conception. But you can see me and see the scars. I didn't have a forehead. They made me a forehead. They made me lips. This is a man-made lip. Man-made jaws. Man-made ears. My eardrums were burnt until I'm not supposed to be hearing, but I can hear real good. And you know, and I was sharing with Pastor Hinton how my stomach was burnt from the outside inward. And they had to feed me intravenously, and for 2.5 years I could not eat nothing. And just 19 months ago I weighed 67 pounds. But look at me now. The Lord is yet in the healing business. The Lord is yet alive, and he's just as powerful now as he ever was.